Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Glad to have each and every one of you back with us today. This entire week is dedicated to Fundraising Academy as the Nonprofit Power Week, and we are talking about major gifts. And our guest back again is Jack Alotto, and Jack has his certified fundraising executive not allocation, certification, credentials, and you also serve as a trainer with Fundraising Academy. And so today we are talking about the Major Gift Fundraising Cycle, and we are just thrilled to have this conversation with you at such a deep, deep level as we move forward. So thank you again to Fundraising Academy for remaining as a wonderful partner of ours and for the Nonprofit Show. Extremely grateful to have you as part of our team. And again, the entire week is dedicated to Fundraising Academy. Thank you to our presenting sponsors. We are esteemed to have each and every one of you as part of the show and truly as part of the sector, because you, our sponsors, exist not just for us here with these episodes, but truly for each and every 1.8 million nonprofits around the US and many also globally. So thank you for all that you do and all that you are here to serve right alongside. Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. Good to be back here with you, Julia. I'm Jarrett Ransom, her nonprofit nerd, but also your nonprofit nerd, CEO of the Raven Group. And again, our guest today is Jack Alotto. Welcome back, Jack.
Thank you for having me. I love coming on this show.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I was teasing you in the green room chatter. You know, it's always a good thing when we have you on and you come back.
Yes.
So, Jack, yesterday, and for those of you who are with us, or for those of you that need to find this on the archive, we really jumped into major gifts, the discussion, which is what we're having all week. I learned some amazing things yesterday, and it was a really interesting framework about what is a major gift. And so what a great way to start. But today we want to explore with you, Jack, more about how major gifts and the process of developing these relationships and stewarding these relationships fits into the Fundraising Academy cause selling cycle. Jarrett and I have become big groupies of your whole program, and we learn something new all the time, but we really wanted to explore how this all fits into the whole concept of major gifts. So help us understand this a little bit better.
So when you look at this slide in front of you, which is the traditional major gift cycle, it appears that each of these stages are of equal length or take the same amount of time, when that's really not the case. In fact, experienced fundraisers know that cultivation takes much longer than solicitation. One of the wonderful things about the cause selling cycle is that it fits so elegantly into this major gift traditional fundraising cycle. And what we talk about in the cause selling cycle is that some things are going to take a lot more time to do than other things in this cycle.
Okay, so that I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you helping us navigate that, because I can see that if we get stuck on these phases and then we're like, wait a minute, it's not working, it can get a little bit overwhelming or make you feel like you're not working. So let's talk about major gift in relationship to your cause selling.
Sure.
And we've got these 4 steps. We're going to really talk about the first part of this, because this is a long conversation, right?
Right.
And so when we talk about major gift identification, what does that look like?
So in the major gift identification, when we bring cause selling to identification, we really have 2 phases of identification. The first being prospecting, and the second, what we talk about in cause selling, is the pre-approach. So just to briefly tell you how we approach prospecting in the cause selling cycle is that we have a number of places where we have to go out and find major gift donors. One of my very favorite, and it worked for me in my own career, is getting referrals. Getting referrals of other major gift donors, first from our board. Going to our board members and asking them, do you know anyone who in your circle of influence or in your network who would be interested in making a major gift to our organization? And the second place that really worked for me in my career to find major donors was by asking other major donors that same question. Do you know anybody in your circle of influence who, like you, would be interested and motivated to make a gift to our cause? So that is really one of the most powerful prospecting tools we have. There are others like attending events, networking, like going to the Kiwanis or other organizations, the Chamber of Commerce, and definitely on your website. The second part of this identification process that we talk about in cause selling is what we call the pre-approach. Now, this is where we determine what information we need from our prospects to know about our prospects so that we can anticipate their questions when we meet with them. Some of the things that we try to find out in the pre-approach, maybe if we got a referral from a board member, we might ask them questions. What do you know about this prospect's interest in this cause that we have? Mm-hmm. This is also the place where we determine or qualify our major prospect as to their ability to make a major gift to our organization. This is where we learn who to call, what to ask for, why, and when, and where to call them. This is where we begin to start to anticipate their questions. And once we do,
I have a quick question, Jack, and I want to jump in there. So I love the referral where you're literally asking, other invested individuals who they might know and who they believe you should be talking to. And I'm curious because, again, I've been a part of these episodes, and we've had Tony Bell on with Fundraising Academy. He talks about the Madden test. Is the Madden test an approach to the prospecting and pre-approach? Is that where we might want to put that into place here?
Yes, this would be an area where we do it. The other thing about referrals, since you brought it up, Jarrett, if I ask you for a referral and you say, I think Julia Patrick might be a major gift donor, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, would you please introduce me to her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Think of all the time that saves in getting to a prospective major donor.
Yeah, huge.
It's just I love that method as my number one go-to method. There are others certainly that are just as effective, but that is really a powerful way since you brought up referrals.
Now, do you think some people might think that's too intrusive, that they will say, oh, I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm just thinking devil's advocate here. But I'm curious if you've seen some pushback.
Oh, yeah. Of course, people are going to say, oh, no, I don't want to give you names of people who are in my network. And that's okay. With our board members, with our major donors, we are so respectful.
Sure.
And so if they say, I don't want to do that, I don't feel comfortable do that, certainly we're not going to keep pushing them to do something they want. But, I think as we get to build the relationship with our board members and our major donors, they're going to begin to trust us, hopefully, and they're going to feel comfortable in doing that for us.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'll say that, and I do a lot of board training and a lot of board work. I believe that this is one of the problems that we have with our boards is that we don't explain this when we're onboarding or even interviewing prospective board members, that this is a part of their responsibility, is helping us make those introductions and cultivating those relationships. I mean, when we're just specifically talking about the board, this has got to be something that our boards understand is a part of their responsibility. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gets me all riled up. Hair on fire moment.
You just lost some height. I just saw 3 inches go down.
I know. I can't afford to lose any more hair on fire, let me tell you. So, because I don't want to join Jack's club. No offense, my
No,
friend.
I'm not offended. I love being a bald man. It's great.
Okay, now we've talked about this and we're navigating towards cultivation, which is another big phase. Talk to us about that, because I think this is where I sometimes feel like there's an overlap, and how do we know when we're the first phase and we're moving into cultivation?
So after we've done that pre-approach and we've figured out lots of things about their interests, their motivations, their values, that kind of thing. Now we move into cultivation, and the two phases that from the cause selling cycle that fit into the major gift fundraising cycle in cultivation are approach and need discovery, what we call in the cause selling cycle. So approach is where we set a meeting. Now we've maybe anticipated some of their questions, etc. We discover and try to understand. That's why it's called discovery. Try to understand what the donor or prospect's interest is in our cause, in our programs, in our services. And then we try to make a great first impression. Some of the things that we like to say in cause selling is make eye contact. This is really so important for me. I don't care whether it's in the fundraising or just when I meet people. If they're not making eye contact with me, it makes me feel kind of strange. Shake hands like you mean it. Maybe we're not shaking hands anymore, but if it's a fist bump, do it like you mean it. If it's an elbow bump, whatever it is, make sure you mean it. And here's something that I really urge everyone to do. Forget the traditional greetings during this approach. Everyone asks, how are you doing? Do we really want to hear how they're doing? Start with a more interesting question, something that will get their attention as opposed to that traditional, how are you feeling, this kind of thing. During the second phase of this cultivation process, this is where we discover their needs, the donor's needs. How do we do that? We do that two really important ways. One, we ask open-ended questions, and then we listen to their answers. This is how we begin to understand their gifting motivations. That's the heart. We say this is the heart of the cause selling cycle. And of course, before we do any of these things, we want to rehearse them.
Yeah. Okay, I've got to know, what else do you recommend we say instead of how are you doing?
Sometimes, what works for me? I'll look around their office. If they have photos out, I may ask them questions. Oh, is that a photo of your son's high school graduation?
Yeah.
Or is this from it looks like you went on vacation somewhere.
Sure.
Where did you go?
Observe your
What was that like?
surroundings,
Yes,
observe.
absolutely.
Sure.
Isn't
And
that,
even if you met,
certainly during the pandemic, I find myself how are you guys doing? I always ask, how are you doing? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and so that is really an important question. But, do we, I think if someone says, well, this morning, how are you doing? And someone answers, well, this morning I had an argument with my dog, and because she wouldn't eat her food, or she didn't want to go potty outside, or whatever it is, or I had an argument with my children because they wouldn't eat breakfast. I mean, do we really want to hear all those things? I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And it's really just become the custom question. And there's been so much conversation about, and is the person even answering honestly? So I love being aware. And I was just thinking, if you do meet in person, something with that could be, did you get here okay? Was the traffic all right?
Yeah.
Just something that's not that standard and we're all accustomed to answering. I'm curious, Jack, how much, in addition to the pre-approach and the prospecting, do you depend on Google search, right? And maybe some wealth mining or data mining information. How much of that do you do in addition to this meeting?
So definitely Google, internet searches. You look at social media, you can find out a lot about people on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, lots of information out there to help you prepare for that approach. And it's also a great way to find out about their needs what they're interested in. You could look at public records on Google, if they get to other nonprofit organizations. Definitely look into your own CRM, your customer relationship database, because there is where you're going to find a lot of information. Have they attended events? You could start your conversation by asking them, hey, I noticed that you came to our gala last year, or
Yes,
you came to
perfect.
an open house. What was your impression of that? There's that open-ended question. What was your impression of the work we do? All of those open-ended questions. Closed-ended questions really are very short responses. Open-ended questions help us build relationships. And at the heart of cause selling is relationship building.
So to follow along with that, the relationship, undoubtedly, I'm thinking here based on the conversation that started this nonprofit power week out yesterday, these are really people that we should already be knowing. Right? I mean,
Yep.
it might be that you are new, as a development person are new to this individual, but don't you think that that's probably a fair assessment to say,
Yeah.
these folks that we're going to be talking with, they already have some sort of relationship with us?
Some of them do, some of them may not. I
Okay.
remember in my own career, Julia, when I worked for an animal welfare organization, and several communities have more than just one animal welfare. They may have the Humane Society, and they may have like a foundation for rescue animals or whatever. I would go through the records of other animal welfare organizations and find names in there who I was not familiar with, had not been giving to our animal welfare organization. And then I would start my research on them to see if they had a good fit. We knew that they already gave to animal welfare. So now how do we get them to understand about our program?
Right. Interesting. It makes sense, especially if you're thinking about actually working this and expanding it. And one of the things I want to touch briefly on, because you had some really interesting comments yesterday about defining for your organization what that major gift was.
Yeah.
One of the things that we ended with right before we left was, do you identify with that prospective donor that they are a major gift? This would be a major gift.
Right. And I would say yes.
And you said that. And I was fascinated. And I'm wondering if this dovetails to the need discovery piece, where it's like a donor wants to be considered a major gift.
Right. We
Is that
a
right?
couple. Yeah, totally. I love this. We say all the time in cause selling, treat every donor as if they're a major gift donor.
Yeah.
With that same level of respect and care that you would treat any donor. And that's true. I remember working, just briefly, and people in a faith-based organization and older people, retired people, would send me 2 $1 bills.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, that gift was as meaningful to me because it was a gift of their heart. It was a gift of love as a $10,000 gift. Okay, so that's number one. I think it's really important when we say, if I'm meeting with a prospective major donor and I say, we are asking a small number of people to step up and make this major gift, I am creating an exclusive group of people, and I'm asking you to join that exclusive group of people by making a significant gift, a major gift that will have significant impact. What an honor that is to ask somebody, even if they can't make that major gift, it's an honor to be asked. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Jack, you hit on something that I love in the philanthropy world is receiving that recurring gift from someone, and I it just brought back so many fond memories of a check that has scribbled handwriting, maybe $5, $10, but kind of like that tithing to the organization, and it is just the sweetest, best gift. And I always look forward to seeing those in the mail. I think that's just It's
Right.
just, it's beautiful. I think
It is
so many of us that
beautiful.
have served in this role and have been honored to have a similar experience, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't on yesterday, so thank you, Julia, for catching me up to speed. And I am curious if you touched on this yesterday, and if not, perhaps we can dive a little deeper today. A major gift, is that defined as a one-time gift or consecutive? So, for instance, working with an organization that currently their major gift is 2,500, and I really think that they have the possibility of taking it to 25,000. Big jump. However, my understanding is that that would be a 25,000 or whatever your major gift definition is over the course of a set amount of time. And I'm curious if it is a one time, here's the big check, or if it is more of that definition, over a given amount of time.
Good question, because we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about duration. We spoke more about it's like a one action. So yeah, really good question, Jarrett.
Yeah. I think it could be, first of all, a one-time gift is still a major gift. But here's where our professionalism and where the cost selling cycle works so well in that cultivation part, that approach and that need discovery is to keep them giving.
Yes.
To make it a recurring gift. If you're doing it right, if you're really cultivating them along the lines of the two things that we talk about in cost selling, then they're going to come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I know you're going to talk about stewardship later this week. That is really key to getting that recurring gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really, really interesting. You've talked about a lot of things that for our viewers that might have just joined us or have not fully engaged in the cost selling cycle. Jarrett, I'm thinking about some of those back episodes that we have where we had Tony Bell on and we went through step by step with a lot of depth. That might be something really to revisit and allow yourself to get back into some of that knowledge and that process, because this fits so beautifully with what it is we're talking about. And again, this is a full week of really diving into this exclusively with that concept. Yesterday was fascinating to talk about what a major gift is. And I think that you dispelled a lot of myths for me, being asked and asking, having sat on both sides of the desk. I was like, wow. I mean, a lot of light bulbs went off, Jack, and they continued throughout the day. So I appreciate that. You and Pearl Hoagland were on. We had 2 documents that we offered to provide everybody, and they were specific graphs and systems for defining what a major gift is. And so those are available and really, really super interesting. We're going to continue this conversation throughout the week. We're going to be talking more about the prospecting piece of it, how you steward these folks and this information. What does that mean with the relationships? And then we'll follow up the full week with the main man himself, Tony Bell, answering questions that have already started to come in, and they're very, very interesting questions. And so we will, Jarrett will actually be with him on that day, and we'll be talking about how this dovetails to the world of fundraising when it comes to major gifts. This has been fascinating, and I'm so appreciative, Jack, that you would come on and talk about this. Really, really interesting. For those of you who are living in this world or want to engage in more relationships with major gift donors, drop us a line. Let us know what you're thinking, what maybe questions you might have, because again, this is an amazing opportunity to spend a full week on this. Just fascinating.
And I will be back tomorrow.
Yes, you will. Thank you so much. And for those of you that might have questions, if you join us live, you're welcome to use the Q&A as we are live in episode. And if you prefer, you can send us an email. There's many ways on how you can get in touch with us, but the American Nonprofit Academy TheNonprofitShow.com. That website, you can submit information, questions. Twitter is another platform. So feel free to reach out to us if you'd like for us to add in a question, perhaps for Jack tomorrow or for Tony on our Friday Ask and Answered. I'm more than happy to address those as long as we get them from you. So thanks again.
Yeah, amazing. I want to put up here on the screen Jack's information because it's really an interesting voice to have not only somebody who has had a successful career in this very topic, but also you are a lead trainer for CFRE, correct?
Yes, I run a study group for that. I'm a big fan of CFRE, and I run a study group for them.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I love your perspective because it's really something that I think with as we mature, in this process of being successful fundraisers, being confident fundraisers, and really aligning our donor investors to our missions, it has to be more scientific. It can't just be so charismatic and gut filled. It has to have some science behind it if we're really going to be successful. And so, Jack, this has been an amazing opportunity for us to have you with us and really be able to get into your mind. Again, if we haven't met, I'm Julia Patrick, President and CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. Been joined by Jarrett Ransom, CEO of the Raven Group, who's been my co-host. We're now moving into our third year of this. And so it's been really an honor to be able to get the great minds of people like Jack with us to discuss these amazing things. We also want to thank all of our presenting sponsors. Without you, we would not be here having these robust discussions. And Fundraising Academy, I was told the story yesterday, Jarrett. We kind of talked with the Fundraising Academy folks and said, we got this crazy idea. Do you think if we did a full week of just one topic, anybody would watch? And they were like, heck yeah.
Absolutely.
So, that's where we are today. And it took us, almost a year to put this together and get this formalized because we had so much that we wanted to talk about. And we had so many people asking us questions about this very daunting major gift topic. And so I think that what I've been learning from you, Jack, is that it's something that we don't need to be so fearful about.
Oh, right.
But we need to be strategic about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think we should ever be afraid to ask people for money because we honor them. We want them to join with us in doing something really important in our world.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a cool way to end this. Well, it's been magical. We've got a lot more to talk about. It's been a journey already to understand what these processes can look like and how they can be natural. I think Jarrett and I have both been very amazed at the natural progression of the cause selling cycle, and that it takes away some of that, well, now what do I do? And some of that anxiety. And that if you can just follow through and understand, I think it's really an amazing thing. Before we sign off today, I've got one more quick question for you. And maybe it's not that quick, but we don't have much time left.
Okay.
And you mentioned, Jack, about the CRM issue, about pulling people, pulling data and understanding who you're working with, who's worked with you in the past.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if some of this information can be generated and back into those data, that data.
Oh, absolutely.
Process.
Briefly, because I know we're running out of time, how you use your database. The first thing I would do is determine what a major gift current donor looks like. By looking in your database. Who are they? What do they look like? What causes are they giving to? What's their linkage to your organization? What are their interests? What are their motivations? Once you understand your current donors, then go out into the world and find other people who have those similar traits.
Love it. Wow. Well, that's a magical way to end this segment. We're really excited to have you back on again tomorrow. We're going to take a deep dive even further into the cycle, set you up, I think, really well with a great and confident foundation for what we're talking about in major gifts. And as we end every episode, we want to remind all of you and ourselves, stay well so you can do well. We'll see you.